When I was a kid, I loved to read. I would read 3 or 4 books a week, and I'm not talking 200-page books, I'm talking big books. I read the whole Harry Potter series in 2 weeks. I would read books that were very much not age appropriate for an 8 or 10-year-old, but I just loved it. And it became my whole personality within my school, but also with my family, with my friends. Everywhere that I went, I was a kid with red hair that liked to read. And then I went to university, and that thing that I had built completely my personality upon was completely gone. It no longer took place. And I kind of felt and still feel very empty, because it seems like the whole life that I had thought for myself is completely gone, and I'm not quite sure how to handle it. So I thought I would tackle this today, because it's something that I've noticed when asking people around me that they also struggle with. I've asked my partner, I've asked friends, I've asked family members, and they all say that even though they love to read, as they get older, they're not really able to do it. So welcome to Book and Prejudice, or welcome back. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. My name is Mara, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. So I thought that I would divide this video, and part of me, if you see me looking down, I have my trusty notebook with me, which I almost dropped. But I thought I would divide this video into 3 different parts. I'm going to talk a bit about reading and my relationship with reading in university. I'm going to talk about reading after university, which is where I'm standing at right now. And I'm going to talk a bit about technology and how that affected my reading. And lastly, hopefully I can figure out what the hell I'm going to do next. So, let me just drink some coffee. When I moved to university, I did politics and international relations, which is a degree that's very heavily based upon reading articles and reading texts and reading political and philosophical books. So I did do a lot of reading, but it all seemed to be for a purpose. The purpose being getting my degree, passing my exams, writing the proper essays. And a lot of the time I struggled with stopping that just to go back to reading. As well, to be completely honest, there was a lot of things going on. I had to go to class, and in the UK it's very complicated. At least in my university it was very all over the place, so it was very hard to create a schedule for myself. And as well, when I was done with class, when I was done with work, and when I was done with my essays, my friends would come around and would be like, do you want to party? Do you want to go to the pub? Do you want to go out to shop? Do you want to go out for dinner? And I always said yes to these things because I wanted to. And also, I'm guessing a bit of FOMO did take a bit of place there. But for the most part, it was a very social environment for me, which I loved. And I think that that's a part of why you go to university, or at least a part for why I went to university, was the social aspects, meeting people with the same interests as me that were not particularly related to my school. So I would do that, and I kept that up for a year and a half. The first year and a half of university was full of going out, and I started dating my boyfriend, so going out on dates and going out to clubs and, you know, taking day trips on a random Tuesday. But all of that honestly left me so tired and so exhausted that the thought of picking up a book just didn't even occur to me for a year and a half. And I think I read from 2016 to half of 2017, I read maybe 5 books, 6 books, which for some people is great, but as someone that was used to reading that amount of books a month, it felt like almost a setback. It felt like I was doing something wrong, and I felt really stupid because, as I said, my whole personality was based upon the fact that I was the kid that read. So that was a bit complicated. And then at the end of university, like my last year and a half and then throughout my postgraduate, yes, the parties toned down, and yes, I didn't go out as much. But then the second part came, and it was that the workload got much, much higher, and I just did not have time. And when I did have time off, I just did not want to read. All I wanted to do was relax. And I found that really odd, because for me, reading is so relaxing, and yet it wasn't the method that I was going for. I would much rather go to the gym which is very odd because I was never a workout person, still I'm not, to be honest, or I would rather go out for dinner, or I would rather just go to bed early, frankly, and just be in bed by 10. That sounded really good at the end of my master's. So even though I was no longer being this social, drinking, partying person, I still found myself not reading. And this is when I started noticing this pattern that I've mentioned earlier. All of my friends that I knew loved to read weren't reading. They all had very challenging degrees that they were doing. They were all trying to, especially at the beginning, trying to make friends in their new context, because we had been going to the same school for 18 years, most of us. We were all trying to adapt to adulthood, and it seemed like what had been so important for us as kids no longer had a big role in our lives, which I am aware of how sad it sounds. And then as my friends started getting older, we all kind of got back into reading, but not to the same extent, not to the same level. So yes, we would read a book or two a month if we were lucky, and yes, obviously there were months, especially at the end of the year, when we would just not even think about books that were not, in my case, the Oxford Handbook of Modern Diplomacy. But it was not the same. It never went back. So we tried, but we never fully succeeded. And I genuinely don't know why. I'm guessing that it was because it's hard to want to read when all of your life is surrounded by reading articles and reading textbooks and complex texts. Because as well, like, I'm not even from my degree, I have a friend that does dentistry, and the things she has to read as well, even though they're completely away from what normal people would read and what most people would read for pleasure, they're still very complex stuff. And I get that when she's done with that, all she wants to do is just stare at her ceiling and do nothing. And it was the same. I would finish reading Machiavelli's The Prince, and the last thing I wanted to do was read, I don't know, some philosophical classic book that I was reading for pleasure. Which meant two things. First of all, that we didn't read as much, obviously, and second of that, the books that we were reading were more towards young adult and fantasy and fiction and easy breezy books. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I am the first one that loves a good YA romance book, but I did notice that I was reading at the exact same level that I was when I was 16. And when you're 21, you're like, okay, well, maybe should I be upgrading? I will come back to this one in a second, because that is also a very toxic mindset that I think people that are very passionate about reading might have. But yeah, so that was my kind of journey, and the journey that I saw people around me have throughout university and their relationship with reading. The second part is reading after university. So I just graduated from my master's. I submitted my dissertation last day of September. I'm done. I'm not planning on going back into the educational system for a while, and neither are any of my close friends. But I'm still stuck. I started a job last week. I work from home. I technically have all of the tools necessary to implement more reading in my life, and yet I don't seem to do that. My question is why? Why do I not do this? Why do I believe that? Why do I still not prioritizing something that I love so much? Because when I do read, I enjoy it immensely. I think that I get transported to a different world, and I get to forget all about my problems for a while. But that doesn't happen as often as I would like. And here I am at 22, a master's degree, an undergraduate degree in politics and international relations, and just wondering, what the hell? Why am I not doing things that I love? And I think it's very easy, and I think the answer is very obvious and very sad, and it's just because I'm lazy. And I don't mean lazy as in like I don't want to do things. I just mean lazy as in there's easier things to do than read, because reading is a very active thing to do, and a lot of times I just don't want to be active. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be lazy every now and then. I do think, however, that the way I'm handling it is extremely negatively, because I know for myself that reading relaxes me and reading makes me happy, and that I want to have all of these feelings, and then I find myself being sad or being stressed, and instead of doing the things that relax me, I sit there and watch a Netflix show in a week. I finished the whole of Emily in Paris in 2 days. Granted, there's only 10 episodes, but still, I can think of better uses of my time, especially being someone like me who generally does not enjoy TV shows. So why would I prioritize doing something that I know I'm not going to enjoy rather than something that I know I'm going to enjoy? And this is the answer that I've kind of figured out. Let me just... It's because it's easy. It's very easy. Just grab my computer and type in netflix.com and just read. And a lot of the times, people at work, and I see this especially in my partner, you'll never guess where they read. They read in their commute. My boyfriend has an hour and a half to work and an hour and a half back. And except for when he's changing trains, he spends all of that time, or at least the majority of it, reading. And I think that's fantastic. I would kill to have a commuting job, even though right now it feels like the unsafest thing to do. But I don't have that because I work from home. I don't go anywhere. And when I'm done at 5:30, all I want to do is lay in the couch and scroll aimlessly through my phone. And as well, there's a second part to it, and it's that I feel like the books that I'm reading are not the books that I should be reading. And I touched on this briefly before, but I feel like as a 22-year-old who is supposed to be entering the workforce, I have to be reading these very complex books. And yes, I am reading currently a very cool classical, Justine, or The Misfortunes of Virtue, I think it's the correct translation. And that is considered a classic. But for the most part, what I want to read, frankly, it's fluff. It's rom-coms. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, except that sometimes I speak to people and they ask me, well, what are you reading? And I'll say that I'm reading, Sarah J. Maas's House of Earth and Blood. And they'll be like, oh. And you can immediately see them judging you for that, which I think is extremely toxic as it creates a very toxic environment around and surrounding books. So I guess that might be something that a lot of people struggle with, especially I think women whose intelligence is constantly being criticized and commented upon. But it's something that I personally don't want to let it have a big impact in my life, especially because the people that love me generally don't care. My best friends are into YA fantasies more than I am. My boyfriend, his favorite book is a zombie book. So my mother, for example, just loves to read about crime. So no one is reading these big books that I feel like I should be reading. So I guess that's something for me to work on, something for other people to work on. I'm going on a really big rant here about whether this is normal or not. I think that it is. I think that everyone does this, and I feel like a lot of people feel the way I do and just don't talk about it. And I think that, I would like to hear someone have this problem. So I'm just gonna tell people that I have this problem, and then maybe that way someone will be able to help me out. And someone else might be inspired to not give a crap, hopefully. The last part that I want to talk about is technology. And this is the biggest problem that I have, because no one shit on my parents, but until I was 16, from Monday through Friday, I did not have a phone. They would give me my phone at Friday 4:30 when school would end, and I would give it back to my parents, at 7 or 8 p.m. on Sunday. So I grew up without a phone and without a computer, because back then we had one computer in the house, and if I needed to type up an essay, I could just go downstairs and just type my essay and print it, and that was that. So I grew up without YouTube, TV. I didn't watch TV. I grew up without Twitter, Facebook, without having immediate access towards these things, because I did have access to them, but not as immediate as some of my classmates did. So for me, reading was literally my only source of entertainment, to the point that I would be studying and my mother would come in and, you know, she'd catch me reading and she would take my books out of my bedroom, because she was like, okay, well, if you're not going to be working, then we're not going to let you get distracted over these things. So yeah, I didn't really have technology growing up, which I really like now, but it has created a big problem in adulthood when it comes to entertainment and technology. So these are the steps that I'm going to be taking to change everything, because I hate this situation that I'm in. I've been stuck in this for 4 years now, and honestly, it is awful. I don't like it. I don't want to be part of it anymore. So I don't like not being proactive about things that are making me unhappy, and this is what I plan on doing, and maybe this will be helpful if you find yourself in the same situation. First of all, I really have started creating more of a morning routine, which is insane because I've never had one, but it really does help the kind of situation that I'm at, because I don't start work until 10, and you need to book the gym, and I have it booked at 8, which is perfect because it gives me from 8 to 9 I go to the gym, and then from 9 to 10 and have breakfast, shower, etc, etc. But because my boyfriend wakes up at 5:30, I'm up at around 6. He leaves the house at 6:30, and I have promised myself that from 6:30 to 7:30, which is when I get up and kind of put on my gym clothes and everything, I'll get into bed and I will read. And granted, I've done it twice now. I've done it yesterday and today, but so far so good. Yeah. Secondly, I really need to be less on my phone, just as a general thing. I spend a lot of time on my phone. It is insane, and I don't have the excuse of people say it's my job, because it's not. I just aimlessly scroll through Instagram a lot, and I really want to get rid of that. So I think what I'm going to do is, especially in the evenings, which is when I'm most likely to essentially be on my phone, and not only not read, but also kind of ignore everyone and everything around me, which mostly is my boyfriend, who suffers this. But I'm gonna try and not use my phone, shut my phone down at 9, and I usually go to bed at 10:30, so from 9 to 10, not have my phone with me. I don't know how I'm gonna do with that, just because I've been trying to do this for quite a while now, and I've never succeeded, so we will see. But yes, so those are my 2 main goals. And then thirdly, I'm going to try not give a crap about what people think about the books that I'm reading, because I don't think it's up to them to decide what books I enjoy, how I enjoy them, if reading in a Kindle is fake reading. So I want to avoid that at all costs. I want to not give a crap about what they say. That's my main goal about that part. And also not beat myself up, because I'm not 16 anymore. I saw this really funny meme. I'll try to insert it somewhere around here. I was so amused by that, because I was like, yes, it cannot be the same brain. And that's okay, because now my brain's a bit more busy and a bit more tired, and has to worry about things like laundry and making dinner and paying bills, which I didn't have to worry about when I was 16 either. So maybe it's a smarter brain. It's probably not. This brain is essentially flooded with alcohol and sadness at this point. But yeah, I wanted to make this video because it's something that I'm very dear towards. I love to read. That has been a constant my whole life. I've never not wanted to read. I've never not wanted to enjoy a book. I just need to remember that and remember to make it a priority, because it makes me happy, and your own happiness should be a priority, and you should do things that make you happy regardless of what other people think, regardless whether it makes you a nerd or it makes you a weird person. And for me, that happiness in the majority stems from reading the books that I love and talking about them, first with my friends, now with you guys. So I really want to focus on making that happen again, because I really want to include this. And maybe I'll give you guys an update. Maybe in a month I can come back and say, hey, I read like 67 books. Just because I changed my mindset. Who knows? Not this girl, that for sure. Well, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of video. Let me know if you do and I'll make more of them. And I look forward to reading in the comment section what you guys think about what I said. And please, if you have any tips about how to improve the situation that I kind of find myself into right now, do share it. I do need tips. I do need all the help that I can get. And as well, I'm sure someone in the comments might benefit from them as well. So, thank you very much. Have a lovely week. And I'll see you guys next Friday. Bye-bye.